come out only from inside. It's not outside. And for against that sharab, the other sharab is nothing. Because that sharab makes you forget about everything. So you are under the mind. You forget about your mind either way, whether you're above or below. But the other sharab makes you forget the mind and you are under the mind and under the table sometimes also. But when in samadhi you are above everything. You are aware of everything and yet you're having maximum pleasure. So that's the subtle difference of your level.
Yeah, it's also there is no judgment.
Of course, yeah, the judgment is intellect, is the awareness.
There is no judgment.
Exactly.
The action, but there is no judgment
Absolutely.
of the result.
Right, right. So when you are in samta, you don't want anything from the life, from the world, from the people. You don't want any fame, you don't want any reputation, you don't want... That doesn't mean you don't live your life. You get rewarded for whatever you do, but your eye is never on the reward. Whatever you got, that's fine. So automatically then your mind is not going after so many other avenues, so you are withdrawing. That's the pratyahara. You're withdrawing yourself. This is all, all described nicely in Patanjali. All the steps basically is pratyahara, is you withdrawing your senses. Because if you don't need the world, you don't need the senses either. Any kind of sensual pleasure, whether it is through the skin or through the touch, to the visual, to the eyes, all these senses are needed to have the material experiences. But if you don't need the material things, what do you need the senses for? You use them for a day-to-day use. Obviously, when you look in the morning and you want to pick up the keys, you need the touch sensation to pick up your keys. So normal day-to-day stuff, you use it. But your mind is not running after them. The senses are indriyas. They are the lesser gods. Mind is the Indra. And all the experiences are picked up by the small gods because each sensation is assigned a god. Because the eyes, the ears is the wind, the air that transmits the sound, the touch, the taste is the water, because anything has to be dissolved before you can taste. Things like that. So every god is assigned to every sense. 5 senses, 5 different gods. And they are considered gods because they let you experience the whole world. But if you remove all these experiences, the outside world does not exist. You cannot see, cannot touch, they cannot smell, they cannot hear, nothing, right? But they only carry the sensations. That's why they are considered lesser gods, indriyas. They are the smaller gods. But ultimate offering, all those sensations are taken to the mind, which is the highest god. That's the Indra ki Sabha. All the court set by, controlled by the Indra. So Indra is the highest god. That's our mind. So now all these sensations are carried to them. But if those outside senses are not needed, the Indriyas have lesser of a role. So you're withdrawing inside. Your mind is withdrawing itself. Huh?
Turtle example.
Turtle.
Yeah.
Turtle, like the turtle withdraws his head from and goes into the shell. So it is happening. You don't have to actively do it. See, there is a big difference in the understanding of the people. Oh, you have to cut off, you have to stop drinking, you have to stop eating like this, you have to do this, you have to do... You don't have to do anything.
It just happens.
It just happens. Once you transcend yourself, things start happening. You automatically lose the desire for it. See, that's why I always give an example of the balloon, right? 9-year-old, 4-year-old, and your adult, all in the same room with the balloon. The 4-year-old wants the balloon, 9-year-old has the balloon. He's bigger and stronger, so he can get away with it. So you go interfere. Say, no, give the balloon to your brother. So he gives the balloon. The 4-year-old gets the balloon, plays with it. Half an hour later, he gets tired. So he gets rid of the balloon. The balloon goes to the 9-year-old. And the 9-year-old plays with it. Half an hour later, he leaves the room. The balloon comes to you. You don't care. So most of the people, and I had very nice couple, they're my friends, they're artists, the wife is an artist, and we were talking about it, that okay, because both are diabetic and they cannot give up all these material pleasures, and then, so the husband says that then the life becomes boring, then what else is left in life? Same thing, right? So I gave him this example. He says that, I said, most of the people are 4-year-old in this country. They want pleasures. They want to go out of their way. They will fight, cry, whatever it takes to grab whatever they can have, right? So most of them are 4-year-olds. some of us are 9-year-olds that we do give up.
Sadhus and sons.
We do give up pleasures because we have to. We are forced. But the first moment we get, we grab it again. Right? As soon as our cholesterol comes down, oh, let's go eat. so it's always in our mind though. We never gave it up at the mind level. But it's the mind that matters. Physically, it doesn't matter. That's why this spirituality is so powerful. They visualized the real existence is inside us. It's not the outside. Outside is the tip of the iceberg. Whatever is outside is nothing compared to what is inside, right? So when you are an adult, you don't want it. Even if you get it, you don't want it. So at that level, that's a real maturity. So when that maturity comes in, it doesn't matter whether you have that object or you don't have it. Even after you consume, your desire was not there before consumption, even after consumption is not there. It didn't make any difference. So once you are in that steady state, you can even drink. It's fine. You can even eat whatever you want and still will not be affected if you're in samta all the time. But most of us, we are not there. So we should not do that, but I'm just saying. But the desires ultimately die out. So pratyahara is just withdrawing yourself and going into the deep core. And once that happens, then the enjoyment starts. So when that happens, your connection to Paramatma is starting. And also what happens is, at the samta level, your conditionings should start vaporizing. All your beliefs should start vaporizing. See, anytime conflicts happens because of the conditioning, because of your beliefs. As soon as I say, I'm a Jain, you're not. So, according to the Jainism belief, and if my mind is psyched up to be a Jain, these are the X amount of rules that I have to follow. Not just have to follow, I believe in it. So whatever somebody else is doing does not confront
He's
that,
not.
then he's not part of me. Then I have a conflict. That's why, Jainism says, okay, I would not do this. And Hinduism says, I would not do this. So everybody gets conditioned with the beliefs and ideas. And from the time we are born till all our life, we are continuously bombarded with all these conditionings. And these conditionings hurt us because it creates conflicts. It continuously makes you remind you that, okay, you are this, so you have to be like this. If I do not dissolve myself as a doctor, I cannot have fun with people who are not doctors. I continuously remind myself that I am a doctor, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor, I have to be respected, I have to be this and I have to have certain status, this and that. Then at the end of the party, I have nobody to talk to. My fun is gone. But if I don't remember that, I decondition my mind and I look at everybody as the same equal, I'll have a lot of fun. So really, how you want to live life is the conditioning has to be dissolved. And conditions can be so many type of conditioning. It could be related to, your personal heights, weights, age, sex, color, your beliefs, religions, education. Could be any of these things. But all these things are just colorings. Once all these colorings disappears, there is no difference between you and me. If we both go into meditation, I'm going to have the same pleasure as you. I should have the same, because there is no coloring.
There's no coloring.
When you go deep in, where is the competition? There are no mansions to build. There are no $1 million homes to make. There are no Jaguars to drive. There is no competition there. So there is so much peace. And that's why, and that peace is same, uniform to everyone. Disregarding the age, sex, color, anyone can reach that state. That's why the Astavakra Gita, right, was written by Astavakra. Astavakra had 8 of his organs, it was bent. His body was bent at 8 places, and yet he reached enlightenment. Right? Even with that kind of body, you can reach an enlightenment. Has nothing to do. Body has nothing to do with that. We are wasting our time in really sprucing ourselves up and making ourselves handsome and this and that so that we can attract more people. Whatever. But we are dabbling in a kiddie pool. So when you reach in the infinite zone,
Samandar.
all those things don't matter. So then we reach the level of samta. So once you have in a samta state, then your dhyan will start. So dhyan is very important, but the shubh dhyan. Until then you were doing ashubh dhyan. So now the ashubh dhyan you withdraw yourself from and you put it into your energy into shubh dhyan. So, in ashubh dhyan is the arth dhyan, which is a continuous thinking of an object or a person, or rudra dhyan, is such an intense that it makes you angry. And the Rudra Dhyan is actually makes you commit certain acts even to the point that your belief is not just at the mind level anger, but it turns into an action, which is really not right, So the type of Rudra Dhyans, they have again classified into 4 different type of Rudra Dhyans. But again, basically is ultimate, as long as we understand the whole concept. See, one of the Rudra Dhyan is called Insanubandhi, where you actually end up doing a violence against a person. So to that extent, you are angry. But again, it's your desire to be so obsessed with that situation that you want it that way, because Artha Dhyan turns into Rudra Dhyan. And so that's, you end up creating a violence. Because there was an example recently, right? Was it in Buntan?
Buntan, yeah.
Buntan, it was so sad situation.
Yeah.
So we were talking.
2 days before.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
It happened Tuesday.
Yeah, there was some love triangle or something, and then the guy ended up killing someone, right?
His own wife.
So yeah, right. So the Rudra Dhyan becomes so powerful that you end up committing a violence. So I was talking to a friend of mine, so same thing, I said, the real solution for all this thing is the understanding of the spirituality. And he starts laughing. He says, no, that's not. same friend, who was a friend of Chatwal. So we were just talking about it. So he says, no. The spirituality is another mental illness, He says there's another extreme, and some people call it another mental illness, But he accepted one thing, at least in that mental illness, you don't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
In this mental illness, you can hurt someone. So anytime there is a deviation from so-called normal, there's going to be a mental illness. That's why Rajneesh says, someday will come, because there is so much mental illness in these countries, right? And this society. Because whether we know it or not, we accept it or not, the whole society is going crazier and crazier. With all these objects of pleasure flooding in, there is no stability of the mind. And then, ultimately, there's going to be so many people not really pathological, not really normal, all pathological walking around. So that's why instead of mental asylums, we'll have to create Buddha asylums, where we keep all the Buddhas, enlightened people over there to protect them from from the rest of the world, So it's going to go to that point, So Hinsanubandhi is the violence. And then Musanubandhi is the series of lies. Again, people lie to achieve certain things. And again, the lying is done to hide whatever act they have done, obviously, or whatever act they want to do. They're going to lie. So their eye is on the reward, on the future. And again, they're losing samta, and that's why they're lying. And when you lie, again, it causes the disturbances. That's why the thought-speech integration is so important, because you don't realize it, but ultimately it kind of baffles your mind. And Chinmayanand says beautifully, he says that thought-speech integration, it will just clear out your mind so much. And small things, very little things, we lie for no reason. There is no reason for it, but we lie anyway. And it doesn't really achieve anything, but it becomes such a habit of lying.
Yeah.
It just becomes a habit. Yeah, I left. You didn't leave, you're still there. It would not have mattered if you'd have said, okay, I'm leaving.
And I see so
Doesn't
much
matter.
difference, like a lot of time customers, they go like, where's my delivery? I go like, I'm sorry, it's not there. Usually before I used to say, oh, he's on the road,
Yeah,
he's
right,
on the
yeah,
road.
it must be there, yeah.
But now I
Right.
changed.
And major lies, of course, create more disturbances.
more
yeah.
disturbance, yeah.
So, series of lies, these are the end results of the Rudra Dhyan. And Parigraha Anubandhi, again, holding. And you really want the money so much that more and more holding and holding and holding. And there are devious examples of people going to such an extent. All these Indian politicians coming out, tons and tons and tons of money and tons of gold. Can you imagine how much can you really use it? But it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Their Artha Dhyan has turned into Rudra Dhyan, and to such an extent that just cannot stop. And it becomes unstoppable thing. And when that becomes, there is no end. And this guy has no relief. There is no suffering, and there is no peace in their life. So there is so much suffering. And then stealing. Stealing, of course, is another extreme of Rudra Dhyan. So stealing, violence, lies, and holding. All these are 4 manifestations of Rudra Dhyan. So that's why we should not be swayed by the material world. So Dhyan is a cure of the mind, basically. The mind you still need the mind. The refined mind is the intellect. And then you can devote in the worship of Paramatma. But until you realize all these problems associated with material worlds, you're not going to do it. So you have to mind is like a child. You have to cajole it. You have to really explain it, and then little by little you have to continuously feed the positive things about the Shubh Dhyan and negative things of Ashubh Dhyan. Then little by little mind will start shifting in that direction. Until that happens, mind will remain. See, the problem is the mind has two problems. One is it's chanchal. It's very chanchal, very unsteady. It's going to keep running after objects all the time. So it's very unsteady. And because of that unsteadiness, it becomes unpredictable. Because whenever you want something, you may be able to get it, may not be able to get it. If I want it from you, you may be able to give it to me, or you may not want to give it to me. I don't know what kind of, you may go only half of what I wanted. But I wanted 3/4 and you were not ready to share that. So all these are unpredictable responses that's going to be generated in the real world. And the reality is, that's what it is. I cannot, so in chanchalta, or the unsteadiness of the mind, is a problem. So it does not let you have peace. And another is malinta, is impurity. Because you employ doing all these things, lying and hoarding and stealing and all these things, becomes impure. And the more and more impure you become, the more and more you're walking away from Paramatma. So lying and stealing and hoarding and has to be limit. So as long as you're, again, same thing, samta. When you're happy with what you have, you don't have no desire to do any of these things. Whatever you have, what's wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with that. So when you steady yourself in yourself, you're only dependent on yourself. You're not really relying on the world to do anything for you. You are totally self-dependent. But to do anything else, you have to rely on the world. The world is necessary for you to achieve your goal. So that's the big difference. So dhyan is the Shubh Dhyan that once makes you think of Atma and Paramatma. Ashubh is that makes you more chanchal and malin. And so basically, okay, so now this samayik is the word in Jainism. This is samta. This break down the word, the samta, and I means faido. It's like advantage. So whenever you can have the advantage of samta is the samayik, where you do meditation. So, and ultimately dhyan, they define dhyan as what is dhyan? Is the steady and vishuddha mind is dhyan. Nistarang mind. Nistarang is like totally steady. Tarang means a thought, and thought means a desire. And desire means an attachment, and all this is a series of events that basically takes place. So you want money, you have a tarang. You have a you want a certain political situation, there is a tarang. You want to be famous, there is a tarang. Anything that you don't have and you want it, the tarang has to be created. The thoughts are created. And thoughts are the enemy of dhyan. You want to walk away from the thoughts, right? So when you want God, that also is a tarang. I want Paramatma, that is also a tarang. The thing is that do not want anything. You give up every single desire, including the God, then God will happen. When you want anything out of life, God is going to walk away from you. That's why when you do pratna even, when you're really talking to God, don't ask for anything. Because when you ask for something, that means you are not happy with what you have. God has created that situation for you. But that's not enough for you. That's why God is not going to listen to you. He says, I have so many people looking for the same thing.
That's what they say. In India, you go in rickshaw,
right.
Everybody comes, you put the window up.
Right, exactly.
How many times God has to put the window up?
He says, every time somebody walks into the temple and wants something, So Rajni says that, they बोलते हैं कि मेरे बच्चे को पास करवा दो so I'm gonna नड़ियर चढ़ाऊंगा. हनुमान जी भी अजीब चीज है, एक नारियल से वो पास भी करा देते हैं. How many things that God is gonna do? God is not a doer. God is an observer. God just gives us fuel to be what we are. We are the doers. Our minds are the doers. God is never a doer. Like there is on a street, there is a procession going on. The lamppost is looking at that procession. He's not doing anything. In the morning could be a funeral procession, and it could be in the afternoon, could be a marriage procession. All these processions pass. The lamppost has nothing to do with it. It just provides the light for it. So it can happen. So all this world can happen. The desire is not part of Paramatma. Paramatma cannot have desire. Everything that is Paramatma. How can Paramatma want anything? So even if you offer, he doesn't care. So why would he do anything for you when you want something? So when you want something, you're looking away from Paramatma. So when you Paramatma, the only thing, if you want to, you just take me in your shelter. That's it. If at all you want to. So just make myself fit enough to be part of you. That's all. And that's a very subtle desire. So mind has to be steady and pure in dhyan. That ultimately will lead to consciousness, the enlightenment. But how do you do it? That's where the 16 bhavanas are starting now. So from next time onwards, we'll start with the first bhavana. Is the anitya bhavana. That we'll talk about first. But before that, let's finish up certain things. So there are 16 bhavanas that will make the mind pure. By constantly remembering those bhavanas, you will make the mind more pure. Once the mind is more pure, it will bring samta, that equibalanced state of mind. And samta will lead to peace. Peace in your mind. And that is the nature of consciousness. So consciousness does not need you to talk. Does not want any words from you. Does not need any actions from you. All those things, if the bhavana is there, he knows. Because that's the closest thing to Paramatma is your bhavana. You don't even have to speak anything. You don't have to do anything. Your actions are not needed. Your bhavana is needed. So whenever you walk around with those bhavanas, he knows. And he will absorb you. But when he absorbs you, it's the final thing is the grace of God. It's not going to happen with your efforts. Your efforts is only to bring yourself worthy of being taken up into Paramatma. But the final is the act is decided by him. And why is that? Because at some point, because we're talking about death of the mind. So it's people said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get to the Paramatma. I'm going to do this, I'm going to reach enlightenment. But then, whoever does the best efforts can reach Paramatma. If the Paramatma was effort driven, then what's the use of Paramatma? So, the only time you're going to get Paramatma when you dissolve Jivatma. Your individual self, the soul, has to dissolve. Then only, like it's in a pot. If there is a pot, there is a space inside the pot. You break the pot, that space merges with the total space, which was always part of it, but the pot thought as an individuality. We are thinking individually, but that pot has to dissolve. The ego has to be dissolved. And when the ego dissolves, there is no effort anymore. Because who is doing the efforts? There is nobody there. The river becomes the ocean. Now, river cannot keep on having identity when it goes into the ocean. It becomes ocean. That's it. So that is the grace. So they say when the iron, you like put it in the fire and turns so hot, and you mix with another piece of iron that is so hot, it all merges. It becomes a single piece. So that final act ultimately has to happen with the grace of God. So at that point, your efforts are dissolved.